Hello, this is Kit of Hard Lens Media, and we have a very special interview. I'm proud to introduce a candidate that's running for the Winnebago County Board, District 20, David Soll. Thank you so much for joining Hard Lens Media.
Oh, absolutely. Happy to be here.
So for our viewers and subscribers, essentially, why are you running for office? Can you at least give us like an introduction to who you are and what you're about?
I'm this time around I'm running. Well, this is my third time running for office. This is my second time running for this particular position. I ran in 2012 for this spot. And I had wanted to try and just make a difference. You know, it just seemed like a good idea. You know, good idea at the time. You know, the Occupy Wall Street movement was just kind of underway back, about a year earlier, and it just seemed like a good calling, and I just went, I stepped up and said, I'm going to run for this office. I didn't know who the opponent was. I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know anything about the local political scene. I just figured we have to do something. You know, we have to actually get in there. We being, real progressives, the grassroots, the people, if you think about it, the Tea Party kind of had the same idea initially when it first started, but then it was taken over. And it kind of became part of the Republican establishment. And so the same initial anger was there with the Occupy movement. And the difference is that the Occupy movement was not taken over by anybody. The Democratic Party tried to, but there was no leadership that was allowed. No one could claim to be any kind of a leader. And so when I ran, I didn't run as an occupier per se. I ran as a Democrat, but I ran as one who understood and saw that there was a lot of anger, a lot of reasons to be upset, and I figured a local seat was safe enough, at least to give it a try, see how well it worked out. And even though I ended up losing that race, I was able to push a lot of the issues that I felt needed to be talked about. And one of them was banking, because Wall Street obviously has a lot of power. And I wanted to, and I thought about, okay, like what issues or what issue rather would make the most difference in destroying Wall Street, or at least putting them in their place again. Obviously regulations would do that from a federal standpoint, but what can you do locally? Well, I found out through research that public banking was a way to go. And so I started researching it. North Dakota, of course, has a state bank that's, in public banking. And I learned as much as I could about that issue, and I felt that you can do that at the local level. At the county level, the threshold is approximately 250,000 people. We have about 300,000 in our county, so it made sense to run on it. And as a result of running on that single issue, along with a few others that are in tune to the local scene down there or up there, I ended up getting 44% of the vote.
Now, there's something interesting to point out, because you ran as a social democrat.
I did.
And your opponents or critics were basically saying that you'll be lucky to get 20% of the vote, because apparently the Democrats in Winnebago County is mostly Republican, with 20% being Democrat. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, my particular district is certainly more Republican than anything else. I'd say it's somewhere between 38 and 40% Republican, and about 20 to 24% Democrat. And then, of course, the rest are either independent or people who don't really follow the party line one way or the other. And yeah, so when I was knocking on doors, I had Republicans who were saying, "Hey, look, we appreciate that you're running. It's a little weird that you're running as a social democrat." That kind of scared some people, and I get that. But you know what? The fact that I was going up to them, sounding rational, giving them, the pointers on, or the details, and pointers too, on the dangers of allowing Wall Street to continue having the power it had, I feel that I must have obviously convinced some Republicans to vote for me. Otherwise, how did I get 44%?
Now, let's just do a quick comparison. What was the difference when you were canvassing during your first time running for a seat and canvassing now? What is the outreach like? What is the community's reaction towards you running for this office now that the current incumbent has stepped down?
Yeah, well, the current incumbent is stepping down, so he's not seeking re-election. So it is me. It's essentially an open seat. There is another Republican, that won his primary against two others, and so it'll be me against him. Now, I have not actually gone out door to door just yet for myself, so I can only kind of give you an idea from the Daniel Biss campaign perspective, because I did help that campaign out, in my local area, my precinct specifically. And so I can just kind of tell you that based on the reactions I got from many people I knocked on doors of, mostly it was Democrats, of course, because they're mainly the ones that will vote in a primary. But even independents, because Illinois is it's not a full open, it's a partially open primary, where you can actually vote for, if you're an independent or even a Republican, you could actually pull a Democratic ticket if you so chose to on that day. So I had no fear knocking on the doors of even people I knew were Republicans based on the voter list, that I had. And I had a lot of positive responses, and mainly I think a lot of it had to do with because of Bernie Sanders from the year before. Because I was part of the large group in the Winnebago area called Northern Illinois for Bernie Sanders, where we went out and really helped try and get him elected, and he ended up winning our county actually by, I believe it was about 10%, 10 or 12 points, and so from that, and then you had the Daniel Biss campaign, and so you had a lot of people who know about the progressive momentum, and they know that a lot of these things need to, a lot of positive change needs to happen. And so by knocking on doors of those people, and even I can even talk about it from a microcosm, if that's the right word, from work. A lot of my coworkers, many of them actually voted for Trump. But they all said, not all, but almost all of them have actually said they would have voted for Bernie, and had he been the nominee. Well, a lot of them ended up voting for Daniel Biss for kind of that same reason. They saw that he was genuine, even though there was that issue with the pensions, because we're unionized. I work for a school district, and so I can understand a lot of the apprehension on that issue. But a lot of people, once they researched it, and listened me out to do the best I could to explain, where Daniel, of course, he did his own thing for himself. A lot of them ended up voting for Daniel Biss based on them trusting my word and my ability to speak to them.
Now, for some of our viewers, of course, the one thing that we definitely try to let everyone know is that what a certain office does, or what a certain position of power, at least when we elect our officials, when they get that seat of power, what does that office do? So for the Winnebago County Board, what is its main purpose? What would you do what is its function in that county?
Well, I mean, the county board is like any other body of governing, whether it's city council, Congress, state legislature. I mean, it's the same basic idea behind it. Where you have the budget, there's the tax revenue that comes in, and then you got to spend that money out however it needs to be, whether it's rebuilding your roads, obviously, bringing in new manufacturing, investing in Wi-Fi, for example. I mean, you could actually take some of the funding, the tax money, and invest in fiber optic cable. I mean, 180 communities across America have done it, and that's actually one of my other issues to push that issue. So it's a matter of trying to make sure that the tax money is spent properly and in a way that would benefit the most people, because we've had in our county, it's been under Republican leadership. A lot of people think, Illinois has been a democratically run state. Well, that's true from a state legislature standpoint, but our county, most people don't realize this. In fact, I talk to people and they're like, what? Wait, what? And when I tell them, oh no, the county board has been predominantly run by Republicans for over 25 years. And it boggles their mind. You get these Republicans who are like, wait, I can't blame Democrats for our problems in the county. And there's a lot of truth in that. And I just have to say, again, I'm not trying to say that the Democrats are perfect in any way. They've made their fair share of mistakes too. But when you have a majority Republican, majority running your county board, and then you find yourself in a position, I don't know, around here in Chicago, if the news of our county gets up down here often, but last year, about a year and a half ago, we had an issue where there was an FBI probe looking into our chairman, our Republican, chairman. and he ended up not running for re-election. And we don't know what the reasons for that were. That was never disclosed. But the fact that it got to that point tells me there's a lot of problems going on in our county board. Now, would that have been the same, if the Democrats were in charge the last 25 years in our county? Maybe, maybe not. The fact is, the Republicans have been, and I feel that if I go in there as a Democrat, well, more of a progressive Democrat, I can at least talk about these issues that aren't normally talked about, and kind of expose and sort of be that outsider while doing because I want to do the work and the job for the voters, which I think has been lost on a lot of these politicians.
So now let's actually talk about some of the issues and what you're running for, and at least explain to some of our viewers about why you stand by these issues. So one of them you mentioned before is public banking. Why is that important?
Public banking has been proven through the State Bank of North Dakota to work. That bank was created about 98, 99 years ago, and it's the only state in all of America that has run in the black every year through the Great Depression, through all our ups and downs, the bubbles, the bubbles and bursts and whatever you want to call them, all the different economic issues that we've had over the years, especially since the 80s, with the S&L, the savings and loan breakdown, and then of course 2008 with the housing market and Wall Street and all that. And yet North Dakota has been able to prove that because it relies on its own local economies, and it works in tandem with with all the banks within it, community banks, even like U.S. Bank and the big boys, PNC, whatever, and they all work in partnership together, and so the money, instead of it, because currently right now what happens is, for Winnebago County, when it puts out or when it borrows money to do a project, say a $20 million project. I don't think they've ever done anything that big, but let's assume for a moment they borrow $20 million. And it's through all the big major banks, which all work and live and breathe through Wall Street. Currently, when we make our payments, our monthly payments to that loan, that's assuming we go in that direction, because then, of course, there's bonds that you can sell too, which is a different way to do it. So there's two ways you can do it. So if you borrow the money from the banks, then you make those interest payments. All that money gets siphoned out and gets sent out to New York or California or Chicago or anywhere other than our area. But through a county public bank, those payments would be paid to the county bank, which means it stays in Winnebago County. It can get reinvested in Winnebago County, and it could be used to further expand our economy locally, which means which means people's taxes go down. That means more money in people's pockets. That means you could conceivably bring the minimum wage, to a livable wage, which is a whole other discussion that we can go on. I can go on forever with. But for purposes of a local race, I won't bother. So it just saves a lot of money for a lot of people.
And also, I'm really quite interested about this other policy that you're running on, this other issue. It's about the animal services, at least in Winnebago County. Can you just give us a quick summary of why is that issue so important to you?
Several years ago, there was a group of people called they called their little group called No WCAS, so no wax or no kill wax, WCAS. And the people behind that movement have been pestering the county board members for a few years now, trying to get them to understand that our current county animal services, being a non-no-kill shelter, has a 48% kill rate. And what that means is that they literally will kill, in a given month, 48% of the animals that they take in just to make room for newer animals, because they don't have the funding, they don't have the infrastructure apparently to put in place. Now, that's not to say that they don't, already, there is the adoption and the fostering, so that they exist, but they don't really go out of their way to do it much. It's almost like it's based on funding. So if they don't have the funding to do these things, then it never happens. And so then you end up, if all these animals end up in cages, well, eventually you got to do something with them, right? So if you don't have a no-kill scenario or situation, which that Nathan Winograd created an 11-point program that, for no-kill. I don't know all of them. I'm not going to try and get into them, but there's an 11-point that he created. And if you follow these 11 points, every community that has gone no kill has seen a massive reduction of animals that end up finding new homes, that don't end up getting killed, and yet they don't have to expand their fences. A lot of people think, oh my God, we're gonna have to like buy 10 miles of land and let the animals roam free or whatever. No, it wouldn't work that way. It's a matter of proper education and getting the animals new homes, and the TNR, which is the trap neuter release program for feral cats and things like that. And it just adds up, and then the donations start pouring in. Every community that's gone no kill, they see a tripling of their donations come in. So no reason why I can't imagine that not being the same case for us.
And finally, for our viewers and subscribers who are going to be watching this on our social media, where can they learn more about your campaign, perhaps volunteer? Where can they find you online and on social media?
Well, my website is, the 3 W's, sollforall.com, which is SOLLFOR and ALL.com. And that's just the main website. I've got links to my Facebook page, which is just my name, Winnebago County, David Soll for Winnebago County District, whatever I called it. And I've got the Twitter. I think it's like Soll with the number 4 actually. I think it's Soll for All, at Soll for All. So I'm out there. I have a YouTube channel, but I don't have any YouTube videos yet. In fact, I'm going to be doing that on my, making some, like little 30-second commercials of my own based on, to talk about each of my issues and put those on there at some point. But yeah.
All right. Well, David Soll, thank you so much for joining Hard Lens Media. Yeah. And to all our viewers and subscribers, peace, everyone. Let's all do what we can to build a better future.
You're watching Hard Lens Media.